Hello, this is John Grimes, OSU Extension Beef Coordinator, and today I would like to visit with you about the Fall 2014 economic outlook for the United States beef industry. Today is certainly an exciting time to be involved in the beef cattle industry. The beef industry is currently undergoing some of the most unique economic conditions in our history. This presentation will address the unique economic benefits and challenges currently facing the beef industry. The economic conditions currently facing the beef industry today can best be described as a perfect storm. Let's review some of the factors that have resulted in this perfect storm. First, we have the smallest beef cow herd in decades, where it sits currently under 30 million cows. Tighter supplies of pork and poultry are main competitors. Lower corn prices. Pasture conditions that have improved nationally, albeit there are still pockets of drought. Domestic demand has been surprisingly strong, and exports increasing in volume and value, with the final result of record prices. Every 5 years, the United States Department of Agriculture conducts a census of agriculture to obtain valuable information on all aspects of production agriculture. The most recent survey was conducted in 2012, with the final results published earlier this year. Here are some key national beef statistics. In this report, just under 29 million beef cows were reported in 2012, which is an 11.8% reduction from the 2007 census. Several states accounted for over two-thirds of the reduction, which include Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Kansas, Kentucky, and Nebraska. And you see listed the top 10 beef cow states, which include Texas with their obvious advantage in numbers, down through the top 10, which includes Iowa at 10. Notice that Kentucky at number 8 is the largest cow state east of the Mississippi. The census also contains state-by-state data. While not a high-ranking state in beef statistics, Ohio is still an important contributor to the beef industry. In the 2012 census, it indicated that Ohio has just over 277,000 beef cows, which is a decline of 5.4% from the 2007 census. These cow numbers allows Ohio to rank 29th in beef cow numbers. In 2012, there were just under 17,000 farms in Ohio that had beef cows, with an average herd size of 16.4 cows. You can also see here the top 10 counties in Ohio, which include Muskingum, Adams, Belmont, Highland, Gallia, Brown, Guernsey, Washington, Monroe, and Licking counties. The July 1 Beef Cattle Inventory Report from USDA provides the most up-to-date report in terms of beef cattle numbers. Due to budget constraints, this report was not published in 2013. Here are some key numbers from this year's report. As of July 1, all cattle and calves in the United States totaled 95 million head, which is 3% less than 2 years earlier. Beef cows at 29.7 million were down 3% from 2 years ago. Beef replacement heifers were down 2%, and the 2014 calf crop is expected to be 33.6 million head, which includes beef and dairy, and is down 1% from 2013 and 2% from 2012. This table shows more detail from the July 1 report by specific categories. Notice that the only category that showed an increase over the past 2 years is dairy cows, with an increase of 1%. Bull calves also held steady at 100%, with all other categories showing 2 to 7% declines. A major factor in the reduction of beef cow numbers in the United States over the past several years has been the widespread drought in large areas of the country. The significant areas of drought in 2011 were centered in the southern plains and southeastern United States. Since 2007, beef cow numbers have dropped 12%, totaling 3.8 million head. Over one-third of these losses have come from the state of Texas. During 2012, the drought shifted northwards towards the central part of the country, stretching from the eastern Corn Belt west towards the Rocky Mountains. The 2012 drought impacted large grazing areas and significant areas of the Corn Belt, which contributed to rising grain prices. Last year, the areas of significant drought shifted towards the western half of the country, still impacting large areas of the nation's cow herd in states such as Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. This year, drought has significantly impacted California and Nevada and continues to linger in parts of the southern plains. The pork and poultry industry are the beef industry's primary competition in the meat protein market. Notice the rapid expansion of the poultry production since the early 1980s, while pork production has experienced more modest expansion. Potential production increases from these two competitors has been stalled in 2014. The pork industry has been hurt by the porcine epidemic diarrhea virus, or PEDV, causing losses of baby pigs. Broiler production has been challenged with below average hatching rates due to reproductive problems. This chart shows the lower price trend for corn since the August 2012 highs. 2013 yielded a large corn crop, and favorable growing conditions over much of the Corn Belt indicate excellent yield potential for 2014, thus putting further downward pressure on prices. There is little doubt that hay prices have elevated over the past several years. This is due primarily to drought and the loss of hay acreage to grain production. 2013-14 prices have moderated somewhat compared to 2012 through 2013 due to improved growing conditions in parts of the country. The USDA National Agricultural Statistics Service recently released their Land Values 2014 summary. Land values were as follows. The average U.S. farm real estate value was $2,950 an acre. Average U.S. cropland was at $4,100 per acre, which is up 7.6%. Average Ohio cropland is $5,650 per acre, which is up 8.9%. Average U.S. pasture land was $1,300 per acre, which was up 11.1%. And average Ohio pasture land was at $3,100 an acre, up 3%. There is little debate that the previously discussed factors such as size of the cow herd, drought, and feed costs have impacted the feedlot sector of the beef industry. But to what degree? This chart reflects the supply of cattle available to feedlots in the near future. There has been a steady decline in supply over the past 7 years. This will not change immediately, as the 2014 calf crop has been projected lower as well. This slide graphically demonstrates the seasonal changes and overall trends in carcass weights. Carcass weights in 2014 are very similar to 2013 and well ahead of the 5 and 10-year averages. Increasing carcass weights have allowed the beef industry to soften the blow from lower production as a result of reduced animal numbers. An interesting phenomenon has been occurring in beef sales in recent years. The beef market has become less commoditized. This graph shows the percentages of prime and branded beef sales. The sales mix of these two categories was relatively flat at around 8% until 2008. Since then, all boxed beef sales in the prime and branded categories has increased to nearly 18% as of June of 2014. Keep in mind that this trend started and grew out of a period of financial crisis and rising food prices. Consumers are showing a willingness to pay for a premium, high-quality, differentiated product. In addition to increasing steer carcass weights, we have supplemented total beef production by harvesting more of the nation's cow herd. This graph shows the monthly culling rates during expansion, stability, and contraction of the cow herd, as well as 2014 rates. Red indicates contraction, orange is a stable culling rate, green reflects expansion, and the black line is 2014 year to date. There are indications that an expansion phase of the beef cow herd is in its infancy. How rapidly will a significant change in beef cow numbers occur? It is a complicated situation with no easy answers. What are some of the factors that are limiting beef cow herd expansion? Record high feeder calf prices that will eventually stimulate herd expansion may, in the short term, increase the temptation to sell heifers as feeders rather than to make them replacements. Current prices for all classes of beef cattle may motivate older producers who are considering retirement to exit the industry. And record high prices for breeding females may lead to an initial delay in expansion plans. There are some regional limitations to potential beef cow herd expansion plans. Competition for land for crop production in the eastern half of the country is a significant factor towards our forage base. Also, persistence of drought in locations in the west where greater expansion is expected, such as the southern plains. What is the supply side of the equation for the beef industry as we look at potential expansion? As we said, beef cow herd expansion has shown signs of beginning after 8 consecutive years of decline. Beef and dairy cow slaughter is expected to be down 750,000 head for the year 2014. The 2014 calf crop, however, is estimated at 33.6 million head, which is the smallest since 1948. And it appears U.S. beef trade balance is expected to be flat in 2014 and 15. Demand for beef and other proteins have exceeded expectations in 2014. Both wholesale and retail beef demand will increase in 2014. Wholesale beef prices have remained competitive with pork and poultry due in part to their production issues this year. Larger pork and poultry production in 2015, however, could limit beef demand growth. In terms of trade, global consumers continue to support higher U.S. beef prices and other ag commodities. Strong global demand is a result of rising incomes and population growth. U.S. beef exports will increase slightly in 2014. However, U.S. global beef market share will decline initially but will return with rising supplies over the next 3 to 4 years. Keep in mind that trade is uncertain in volatile situations such as Russia, where beef trade has been minimal and pork and poultry sales have been recently suspended due to retaliatory sanctions. So who are our competitors in global beef production? The United States continues to be the leader in world beef production and has been relatively stable in their production over the past 15 years. Brazil is number 2 and has aggressively increased production over this period and is closing the gap on the United States for the top ranking. The European Union, China, and India round out the top 5. It is interesting to note that much of India's increase in production has come from water buffalo animals. Numbers provided by the U.S. Meat Export Federation indicate just how important beef exports are to the U.S. beef industry. Notice on this chart that in 2004, total U.S. beef exports did not even top the $1 billion mark. Keep in mind that this was after the mad cow scare in 2003 and exports to many countries stopped. Over the past 10 years, exports have exploded and now top over $6 billion. Here is a listing of the top U.S. beef export markets in 2013. The top-ranking market is Japan with just under $1.4 billion in sales, and keep in mind that this was virtually zero in 2004. Second is Canada. Third is Mexico. Fourth is the combined market of Hong Kong and China. And fifth is South Korea. And again, these numbers are from the U.S. Meat Export Federation. It is obvious from the previous slides that exports are an important part of the overall value of U.S. beef production. So how significant are exports to our bottom line? In 2011, exports added over $200 per head of fed slaughter for the first time in history. In 2012, this number increased to just over $216 per head. In 2013, nearly $245 per head, and in June of this year, a new record for beef export value was set at $299.14 per head, which is up nearly $40 from a year ago. This graphic charts price changes for calves, feeders, and fed cattle since 1990. Price lows were reached in 1996, and the U.S. beef industry has experienced explosive growth since 2009. This chart shows all fresh retail beef prices since 2012 and compares them to the 5-year average. Record high prices have been established in 2014 and are expected to continue. The story is similar for choice retail beef prices when it is compared to the fresh retail beef prices overall. Record high prices continue to be achieved for the choice grade. This chart shows CattleFax's U.S. annual average price forecast for the remaining of this year and into 2015. Notice steady increases in all classes of cattle and meat prices and a continued moderation of corn prices in the coming year. This graphic charts the industry profitability for the cow-calf, stocker, and feedlot sectors since 1980. In general, the cow-calf and stocker enterprises have been consistently more profitable than the feedlot enterprises. Cow-calf and stocker profits have been very strong since 2010. Profit levels are expected to moderate in 2015 with some potential losses facing the feedlot sector next year. This slide again shows CattleFax's 2015 price outlook for beef and cattle. Prices are expected to rise again, but not as dramatically as the past 2 years. Records are expected to continue in 2015 with declining supplies and relatively strong demand. We do expect smaller inventories, but there may be cheaper protein options from the pork and poultry industry. Cow herd expansion and heifer retention should continue to yield higher prices in 2015. Expected cheaper cost of gains will occur with large corn crops and improved forage conditions. This graph charts the typical annual ratio of the number of 550-pound steer kids needed to pay for a bred cow. Since 1989, the 25-year average ratio has been right at 1.5. However, in times of expansion or stabilization, the ratio can approach 1.65. When feeder prices are at $2.20 a pound for the 550-pound calf, a bred cow is worth $1,815 if the ratio is 1.5, and will approach $2,000 per bred cow if the ratio reaches 1.65. At $2.50 a pound for that 550-pound feeder calf, a bred cow is worth just over $2,000 if the ratio is 1.5, and that same cow would bring nearly $2,270 if the ratio reaches 1.65. In terms of the 2015 price outlook for beef females, cull cow prices are expected to be up $7 to $10 per hundredweight over 2014 to average somewhere between $1.07 to $1.13 per pound. Breeding female prices in June of 2014 in the Midwest, bred cows were falling in the $2,000 to $2,500 range, bred heifers from $2,000 to $2,600, and pairs at $2,500 to $3,100. Expect bred females to be $450 per head higher in 2015. As we stated earlier, what an exciting time to be involved in the beef cattle industry. In this presentation, we have addressed many of the factors that have led to this extremely positive economic situation. The outlook is bright, but potential price volatility remains due to domestic and global economic and political considerations, competition from pork and poultry, and the uncertainty of the long-term weather impacts across the country. Stay tuned. It will be an interesting ride. For more information on this or any other beef-related subject, you can contact me at the contact information listed on this slide. Also, I would encourage you to visit the OSU Extension Beef Team's website located at beef.osu.edu.